how long is going to be, how long you would like me to talk, and the Q&A, etc. Yeah. So before live.
So we're looking very much forward to you, Rahima, speaking for about half an hour, and then we're going to take questions as well. Yeah, basically that's the structure of this evening, and it's an absolute pleasure to have spoken to you a few weeks ago. And give me 2 seconds, we're having a bit of a conflict here between two technologies. Right, it's an absolute pleasure to introduce Rahima this evening to our audience. We have an audience from different communities, the Jewish community around the UK. I'm the rabbi of St. Anne's Hebrew congregation, which is up north on the Fylde coast. And I was put in touch with you via a good friend of mine and colleague, Rabbi David Mason of Muswell Hill, who I know you know very well. I think you live down the road from him. And it's very much a topic of interest for me personally, hearing about it in the news. Our chief rabbi, Rabbi Mervis, recently wrote an article, a scathing attack about the awful persecution of the Uyghur in China. And it's, I suppose, with the COVID and the lockdown, it's something like many stories that are important. It's gone onto the back burner for many people. And there are many people in our community as well who may not be aware of the story. And so it's our pleasure to have you tonight, somebody from that community who's going to hopefully going to share with us your personal story and insights into what's happening, and also perhaps talk about what we can do. Because you know, we do have these, there's many synagogues and organizations now having these types of Zoom activities. I would not want to think that tonight is just simply an entertainment, you know, to fill our time. We want to hear from you what we can do and how we can raise awareness about this very pressing issue. Just to finish my introduction by saying there's no coincidences, we say in Judaism, and this week, our Torah portion that we read every week of the calendar year, we read another section of the Torah. And this week is the beginning of the second book of our Torah, which is Shemot, which talks about the entry of the Jewish people into slavery and bondage in Egypt. And I just want to read to you just 3 quotes from the former chief rabbi, Lord Rabbi Sachs, you may have heard of, you may have read some of his works, and he writes a lot prolifically about freedom. And he says as follows: God, who led his people from slavery to freedom, desires the free worship of free human beings. And then he also says, of all the great religions, Judaism has the strongest conception of the freedom and dignity of the individual, beginning with the principle that the human person as such is the one bearer of the image of God. And that's the position I'm coming from in terms of wanting to hear your story, because at the end of the day, all human beings of all faiths and none are ultimately, they bear the image of God. And when we see or hear of the suffering of human beings around the world as human beings, but also specifically as Jewish people, it's incumbent upon us to be moved, not just emotionally, but moved hopefully eventually to action, and eventually we can help with some level of transformation. So with that introduction, Rahima, it's my pleasure to give the floor to you.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. First of all, thank you, Rabbi Danny Bergson, for inviting me and give me this platform to share my experience, especially what is happening to my people right now. My name is Rahima Mahmut, and I was born in a city of Gulag, and it's the northern part of what I call the East Turkestan, but the Chinese, the CCP call it Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Xinjiang means new territory, though the Chinese government often claim that Xinjiang historically is part of China, but the name itself gave it away. It was not historically part of China, and East Turkestan is the historical homeland for the Uyghurs and many other Turkic Muslims. And I was brought up in a large religious family. From very little, what I remember the most is the sort of fear that we were warned that we shouldn't just say anything or tell people anything. For example, when my father and my other elder siblings, when they prayed at home, they used to lock the gate from inside and often warned the little ones that do not tell other people that we prayed. If you do, police will come and take us away. So that was the latter years of the Cultural Revolution. And then Mao died in 1976. Gradually, the new leadership declared that the Cultural Revolution was a mistake. And so we gained relatively better religious freedom. So the mosques were reopened. And this is the time when I started my primary school. The mosques were reopened. People were happy that they can worship, because for Uyghurs as Muslim, we and our faith is extremely important. Even though not everyone are religious, not everyone went to mosque and prayed 5 times, but the way of life and our cultural heritage and our language is a very important part of being Uyghur and of being happy. So that is the my childhood. I spent my childhood remembering the best memories, I would say, is the singing and the music, and also listening to Quran, reading from my father. Because my mother's side, they're all from my great-grandfathers, musicians and singers. So I inherited that talent from my mother. So I was brought up in a very happy family, despite the extreme kind of restrictions. I think we never spoke about the freedom of speech from very young age. It's always like you have to be careful what to tell other people. So later I went to university in the mainland of China, and in 1989 the student democratic movement, the Tiananmen student movement, started in May in 1989. I was one of the many thousands of students joined that movement. I left the square on the 2nd of June after receiving repeated warnings that the military will crack down, will have a military crackdown. And then on the 4th, 2 days after I left the square, then we know the most, maybe in the recent history in China, that the Tiananmen massacre may be one of the incidents that people all around the world remember, how tank drove in and killing many thousands of students. Up until now, China still denies that they have killed many thousands of elites, the best of the, at that time, the new generation in China. And graduating from the university with a degree of petrochemical engineering, I returned my country in 1992. And what made me really sad was that I couldn't find a job in the capital despite graduating from one of the top universities. And yet many Han Chinese, they came straight away, they arrived today, and the next day they already have the job. Later, I found out actually a team of recruitment groups went to various universities in mainland China, offering incentives for the Han Chinese to come and work in my country. And this is, I mentioned this because a lot of root cause, a lot of problems actually is this kind of discrimination, the marginalizing and the taking away the rights of the Uyghurs, bit by bit, bit by bit. And so later I took the job in petrochemical industry in a town called Maitar. I was in an ethylene plant where there were over 3,500 employees, and only about 300 were the Uyghurs and other ethnic minority. And this town, the population of the Uyghur and other ethnic groups were over 60%. So you can see they only like less than 10% of the work, the employees were the Uyghurs, and the rest were all came from mainland China, and they took the jobs. The situation gradually became from this kind of open discrimination then to crackdown, gradual crackdown. So the implementing the laws became very usual. And in China, implementing a law, it doesn't need, like in this country, you have to pass through the parliament, the lords and the commons, and then but it's not like that. In China, if the government decide to implement certain law, that just come to power immediately. So the gradual implementation of the various discriminative law that kind of criminalizing the ordinary practice, ordinary way of life of the Uyghur people. And in 1997, in February 1997, when I was visiting my family in Rolja, my hometown, then I was teaching in a college. My son was a year and a half old at that time, and February the 5th, a peaceful protest happened in the city of Rolja. And although I wasn't at the scene, and I heard that there was over 100 people killed at the scene. And then from that night, police started raiding houses and arresting people. So by the time I left Rolja after 2 weeks holiday, and there were over 4,000, almost 5,000 young Uyghurs, mainly male, arrested, simply accused of causing riots or anti-government. And Amnesty has documented this in 1999. 195 protesters were executed. And there was no one killing from the protesters. There was no any incidents that we know of. And this peaceful protest crushed in a way an absolute horror. And I seen at that time the despair, of many Uyghur families, and my relatives. Many of them, their children were arrested at that time, and that led me to decide to leave my country. And so in 2000, I managed to obtain a student visa to do a master's degree in this country, and I came. And I know the situation was getting really bad, but I never thought, in this 21st century, we as people, as a group, would face genocide. I never expected that, even though I knew that situation was getting worse year by year for the Uyghur people, and we were very badly discriminated. The Chinese government launched campaign even before I left my country, actually from the beginning of early 90s. And the campaign, the propaganda was that the Uyghurs, the people in Xinjiang, they are the backward, they are violent, they are dirty. And in 1998, when I was traveling to Guangzhou en route, I had to change train in Zhengzhou city. I couldn't find a hotel. Every hotel I went after they saw my ID card, saw my name, and because immediately they know that is from Xinjiang, and then they said, we have the policy, we don't accept anyone from your background. And in the end, at the fifth hotel, I managed to get a room after reasoning with the manager, showing them my teacher's certificate and telling them that I actually educate the Chinese people. And this was, I can tell you many unfair situations that people find it shocking. And even in 2000, when I went to Beijing to apply for visa, again, it was the same situation in Beijing. And we were only allowed to stay certain hotels, not all. So this is a gradual situation. And then in 2009, the Urumqi massacre, I will say, the Chinese call it unrest or violent attack, but it was a peaceful protest after the Chinese people posted videos of how they killed several Uyghur workers in Shaoguan city of Guangzhou, and they posted the YouTube video how they violently attacking these Uyghur workers and killing them. So the students of the university in Urumqi, the Xinjiang University, organized a peaceful protest and asking government to take these people who killed the Uyghurs accountable. And that was crushed. Again, it was exactly the similar way how it was crushed in 1997 at my city. And we know since July 5th, the state media often show that how the Uyghurs attacked the Chinese, killing nearly 200 and mostly Chinese, but they never showed how many thousands of Uyghurs made to disappear from the 5th of July 2009. Immediately, they introduced the extrajudicial killing and extrajudicial arrests. And I think as Jewish, you must can relate this, how this happened during the 40s, how the Germans gradually illegalizing and introducing law to criminalize the activities, just or any kind of ordinary activities. So that started in 2009, and the mass camera installed, I said, no blind spot to be left, including outside public toilets and mosques. And in 2013, and they formed a group of 6, they call it working group, 工作小组, sending a group of 6 officials and police to all the neighborhood, all the community, all the towns and cities. And their job is to dig out the files of the Uyghurs and check during the past 20 years whether they involved in any kind of like petitions or protests or any activities, or anyone who served prison sentence in the past. And we know from that time that there's something really dangerous is happening, but yet we never thought they would, later incarcerate millions of Uyghurs. So in 2016, the party secretary of Tibet, the man called Chen Quanguo, who ruled Tibet for 5 years, terrorizing the Tibetan people. And he used high-tech surveillance in Tibet, and he was appointed a party secretary in August. And 2 months after he was appointed, I couldn't get through to anyone, any of my family members. My telephone left unanswered. And I was removed from this WeChat social media group by my friends, by my family, by everyone that I have been in contact with. By the way, I never returned home since I came here in 2000. And so on the 3rd of January 2017, after 2 months, I couldn't get through to anyone. And when I called my eldest brother repeatedly for a whole day, and he answered his phone. And when I asked him why there is no one answering my phone, and he said, they did the right thing. And leave us in God's hands, and we leave you in God's hands too. And he put the phone down. That is my last conversation, and in 2017. So it's 4 years now. Soon after, several months after that phone call, and then I learned that they are rounding up people. Some was summoned to the police station, and then they just placed black hood over their head and taken them to detention centers. They turned many schools, many former hospitals, turned all these facilities into detention. And from April 2017, mass arrests started. And by the summer, we know many well-known, famous elites of the Uyghurs, scholars, presidents of universities, writers, all the cultural figures, philanthropists, the wealthy businessmen, they were all taken away. And by 2018, in August, the very first time after the Uyghur organization, my organization, World Uyghur Congress, and many other experts, including the Chinese experts, provided mountains of evidence to the UN and the UN working group, first time openly criticized China and said, we believe up to 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslims are detained in camps. China denied immediately. They said there's no such thing. We don't have any camps. But then after confronting them with all the satellite images and many credible sources, information, and then 2 weeks later they said we have re-education camps. It's nothing. Facilities, nothing like an education institute. It's all barbed wire, the high security. And then by then we also had several survivors. They were released because they had a foreign nationality or one of their spouse were foreigners. And we learned what was happening inside these so-called re-education camps. And I'm as an interpreter and translator, I worked with many documentaries and also translating reports, interviews, and met most of the survivors while we interviewed and translating their accounts, their testimonies, and it is chilling. It's what is happening inside is chilling. And the people not being taken in, they are not free. I spoke to one of the intellectuals who was detained for 3 months, and he said everyone is scared. A knock on the door bring fright to anyone. You just think no one will say, I am safe, they are not going to come to me. Everyone is saying, when will be my turn? So this is a situation, and this is what is happening to my people. And from we know up till now, 3 million, and that is not an exaggerated number. And the Uyghurs living in their own homes, they are not free. The Chinese government deployed over 1 million cadres, mainly male, sending them to Uyghur families. And they must live with Uyghur family at least 5 days a month, monitoring what they eat, whether they pray, whether they speak Uyghur language or the Chinese language. And any little anything that they can find that is not in line with the party policies, they can take them and send them to so-called re-education. And these facilities, in fact, are the torture camps. These are the facilities designed to destroy the Uyghurs. And in the leaked document that we had November last year, over 403 pages of documents leaked, the classified document. Later, another document called China Cable, all leaked, all indicated the intention of why they built these facilities. And the Xi said, show no mercy. And the Chen Quanguo, the party secretary who was appointed in August 2016, and in this classified document, it said, these facilities, you must teach like schools, manage like a military, defend like prison, and break their lineage, break their roots, break their connections. So basically destroy the Uyghurness. And if anyone who refused to be assimilated or refused to eat pork, refused to sing the red songs, and they are given very lengthy sentence and branded as terrorists. And we know over 500,000 of Uyghur prisoners moved to mainland China, most notorious prisons in mainland China. And we don't know what happened to them. We don't know whether they will be able to survive. So I have been translating another new interviews that for the BBC. It will be out this month. I don't know the date yet. And this is to investigate the alleged systematic gang rape. I'm not going to share any details for now. And I know it's a very heavy subject. It's nothing that, make people feel at ease. And I'm a singer. I normally, like to sing and to bring happiness and joy to the crowd, to the people around me. But I am sorry if I am saying this very disturbing, very terrible, things that is happening to my people, and also remind you of your very painful past. I'm sorry. I'm not here to seek any sympathy. I just want people to take actions after hearing what is happening to my people, so that together we can stop the Uyghur genocide. And I think I will stop here, and I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, Rahima. I'm just trying to, hold on a second. Where am I? Add pin. Apologies about this. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you so much, Rahima. I'm going to take questions in the chat. It might be easy, or you can raise your hand. So David Oliver has raised his hand using the digital raise hand. But just prior to that, we have a question from Mike Frankel, a member of St. Anne's. He says, what sort of action would, Rahima, what would you recommend? What is it that we can do to make a change and chip away at these clear violation of human rights and human rights abuses?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would say raise awareness. Number one thing, tell more people, because we need the world, more people to know what is happening. Because that is one thing that China is scared. And that is why they block these phone calls, from the people abroad, and criminalizing the families, because they fear the truth, to be told. So the very first thing I would say, raise awareness. And then second thing, that what you can do, join the campaign. I say Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign. Or you can research, you can search on Rene Kesen. I'm sure you know the organization. Yeah, and there is a action plan by Rene Kesen about specifically how Jews can support the Uyghurs. So we have MP pledge, and we would like people to send that pledge to their own MPs. So when you visit the website, you will find the information. And also the reason China is now the reason most of the countries are very silent, because of the economic power that China has. And I believe people can play very, very huge role in boycotting, and also be mindful of, when you buy products. And just to inform you, 84% China cotton, and the 20% of the world cotton come from my region. And 1 in 5.
Sorry, Rahima, could you just repeat those statistics again? 80% of which?
84% of cotton in China, and 20% of world cotton produced in my country is from my country. And if you watch the latest BBC report by John Sudworth, and he reported that over 500,000 Uyghurs were forced to work in cotton picking field. Mm-hmm. And so from the picking cotton to the production, the whole supply chains are tainted by the forced labor, by slave labor. And today, M&S, Marks and Spencer, announced that they will move their supply chain. And after we campaigned, we have a coalition called the End Forced Labor Coalition. So we are campaigning these big brands to move their supply chains elsewhere because of these forced labor abuses.
Thank you, Rahima, for that answer. David Oliver, I'm asking you to unmute. I'm just going to unmuting and I'm adding a pin.
Hi, David. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Rahima. What is the difference between your ethnic Muslim family and the mainstream Muslim majority? How different are you?
Yeah, I know Muslims, we are all very different, because of the different cultural background. I can tell you the Uyghurs very much similar to the Turkish. The language is very similar. We say Turkic Muslim. So the closest language is Uzbek. And I know there are many Bukharian Jews in Uzbekistan. And I know very famous music band as well, the Jewish band, they sing. So we are very much like the Uzbeks and so very different from the Arab Muslims, from the language, the way how we practice. And Uyghurs, due to the occupation since 1949 and the constant crackdown on religion during the Cultural Revolution, so majority Uyghurs actually became kind of secular, very much secular. But Chinese government using the Islam to justify the crackdown. So they conveniently using the Islamic terror or that using that kind of Islamophobia against the Uyghur people.
Thank you, Rahima. Just on that point about the branding of the Uyghur as terrorists, the way that, at least the way it's been presented, there seems to be a narrative that China is suggesting that there have been some examples of members of your people attacking Chinese people. There was some cases of some knife attacks. Of course, this does not justify stereotyping and group persecution. But are those stories which I would understand if people are being persecuted to the level you're saying as a reaction? But are those stories also false as well? Is there any evidence?
Well, first of all, I condemn any kind of violence against a kind of peaceful, just ordinary people. There is madness. I strongly condemn that kind of actions, whether it's my own people or other people, because there's no such action can justify or help the Uyghur situation. But all these claims, there is no independently verified, because all the claims is completely just a one-sided story by China. Okay. Therefore, we have doubts about how much is the truth. It could be. Yes, there can be some terrorist attacks, or it could be, from my own understanding, that the despair that the Uyghur felt when I left in 2000, the 1997, when that some families, they lost 3 sons after they just attended that very peaceful protest. And this extreme discriminative policies and the one crackdown after another, and that led to this kind of extremism as well, for young people when they had their parents killed. I know one young lady, she's not young anymore, she lost 5 members of her family. 3 of her brothers were executed. 2, when they executed 2 of them, the police took her to the execution ground for her to watch them. And her mother, her father they were a very religious family. And as this kind of China cannot solve its problem by killing and in such a very unfair state terror. I think I'm
straight.
yeah, that is my answer to this. And of course, I'm not going to say just deny that there is no such thing. I cannot say that, but I cannot say that what the Chinese said is 100% true or fully justified.
There's a disparity in any case. You have over a billion against the small. I know the numbers you're saying are very large, but relative to the population of China, it's the Uyghur are a tiny minority. The question coming from Malcolm is, can one really fight the Chinese authorities who have no regard whatsoever to world opinion? Another example of this is the Chinese attitude that's happening right now in releasing COVID-19 information about COVID-19, or releasing COVID-19, however you read that, to the world. I suppose that counts as what you were saying about what we can do. Do China, I mean, they are on the Security Council, do they care about world opinion? I'm open to you.
Well, I think they do care about the world opinion. And that is why, as I said, that is why they try to block all this information. They know what they did, what they are doing is absolutely ugly. And that's why they try to block any information. But when you look at it today, if you watch the news that in Hong Kong, what is happening in Hong Kong, and many arrests were made in Hong Kong, and they openly completely disregarded the Sino-China agreement. And so in certain way, they try to save the face and trying to present themselves as a government that, they do everything abiding by the law. But when you look at what is happening to the Uyghur people, to the Tibetans, and to Hong Kong, and also how they completely blocked information at the crucial stage of COVID when it was spreading, and this caused how many lives in the whole planet. And I think people should have this very independent understanding rather than fall into the Chinese propaganda. Chinese government spend many millions or even billions on their propaganda in the West.
I think the problem is as people in the West see China as this. There's a mystique about China. The cultural differences, the language barrier, and the sheer numbers and size of China make the little man, the individual. Perhaps that's where Malcolm's coming from. Feels, how are we supposed to make a change? But if anything, if the governments, the EU and the UN, those are the places that need to be affected. But unfortunately, the last 20, 30, whatever, since the inception of the UN, it's not. It's got some great declarations of human rights, etc. But how many times has it actually made an effect in international relations? It's not good. So I suppose the only way we can make a change ultimately is to influence our MPs in this country, and that the government as a whole should take a certain policy. This is a long process, and the problem that you're raising this evening is that we don't have much time because people are being killed and tortured and all sorts of horrific abuses right now as we speak. There's another question over here. Please can we have the links to the action pages mentioned? That's Renika Sin. Yeah, I'll post those later. Hong Kong is followed fast down the same road as Tibet and Uyghur. We need to stand against this. It's interesting that the UK have stated a policy, I don't know if it's in effect yet, that they're going to allow people from Hong Kong to come over to this country to seek asylum. Is that right? You would know about this. If that's the case with Hong
Yes,
Kong, then surely the Uyghur, sorry if I pronounce it wrong, the Uyghur are more eligible than Hong Kong. So what do you understand why the UK have taken a particular action for Hong Kong? They feel a particular responsibility. Is that to do with the agreement?
Yeah, it's to do with agreement, and also you know Hong Kong was on the UK until it was handed over to China. So there was certain agreements, you know, given the special rights to the people in Hong Kong. And even if UK say, well, we welcome 1 million Uyghur, you know, there's no Uyghur can leave the country. There's no one they can't even dare to make a phone call, you know, they can't. You can imagine the horror, the fear, and it breaks my heart because my brothers and my sisters, we've been very, very close, even though I left there for you know, for about 20 years, but I kept very close contact. I used to phone almost every week. I used to speak to them. And since I had a cancer in 2013, it was grade 3, and everyone was terrified, and always they worried that, you know, if I am still okay. But yet, for the last 4 years, they didn't dare. None of them dared to call me to find out how I am doing. You just can imagine for them watching afar that how many 50,000 a day people got COVID, and the Chinese government, they don't always reveal this kind of information, what is happening to people inside China, but they love to you know, show the Chinese people how, you know, other countries failed, the failure of other countries. And I could imagine if you know, if my sisters and my brothers still at home watching television, they would be worried, thinking, you know. So this is a situation. And the one thing I think people must remember, I mean, a lot of my own people didn't believe that they can do anything. You know, they just try to get on and live their life. But I choose to speak up, and I, you know, look how much I reached out to now, how many followers and how many people now are trying to do to help the Uyghur situation. So I think we need to believe in our own little power, that actually, if we try, there is possibility we can move the mountains. And we need to start from this country, especially, I mean, the UK is, you know, can lead on the world stage. We are now petitioning or asking for the Lord Alton of Liverpool initiated a trade amendment, genocide amendment to the trade bill. So this bill allows the people like myself, if it passed, allows the UK court to examine what is happening to the Uyghurs and determine whether there is a genocide taking place. And now this bill has passed the Lords with significant majorities last month. And this will be now, I think the date, it will be on the 18th of this month. The House of Commons is going to vote on this bill. And I am asking people, please contact your MP, and please, they must support this bill, because the UN is broken. China has a right to veto any ICC. We have 2 Uyghur organizations took the case to ICC, and then they dismissed. So there is no way we can have a you know, for Uyghurs have a court, and at least we should have this right. You know, we know that in order to reach the genocide determination is not easy. It requires very, very high level of evidence and so on. But we believe that at least we should be given the chance, and this country should allow, should change the system, the order, what is happening in the world. So I think each individual in this country, we have certain power. At least we can speak freely. We won't be persecuted because we said anything bad against government or anyone. So therefore, I welcome people to contact me also directly if you have organization or any other that you feel you want to know more how to help, and also the most importantly to join the course Stop Uyghur Genocide. Follow me if you have a Twitter account. Follow me on Twitter. Retweet what I tweet, and spread the word. Do whatever you can and to help. Because a lot of people often say, "Oh, China is too powerful. Do you think you can change that?" There is no way. The minute when you say that, you actually are making China more powerful. So I think there is no power can last forever. It's all down to the people to do the right thing.
Rahima, if you've ever said something as Jewish, that is the most Jewish thing ever said. I mean, basically, Judaism is founded on the principle of speaking truth to power, and as you know, in our history, we were persecuted by the Romans, the Byzantines, the Babylonians, the Assyrian Greeks, and these great powers who thought they were going to establish and replace previous powers and establish themselves forever, did not stay. When we're in the moment of persecution, when we're in the problem, it can seem almost insurmountable, and it's a human nature, I suppose, to give up hope, especially when the problem seems so far away. But you've spoken tonight so from the heart. It's been very, very moving, and an absolute privilege. Before we conclude, I'm going to read a couple of things over here, and also I want my president, the president of the St. Anne's Hebrew congregation, I'm going to put him on to also give you an official vote of thanks. So Ruth Jacobs writes here, "So glad to have been able to be at this Zoom event. Rahima is a courageous woman. We have to emulate her example and do what we can. So much of what is happening to the Uyghur is similar to what happened to the Jews at the hands of the Nazis. In 2021, with their situation so much open view via social media and testimony like we have heard, we must just be sure that never again really means never again." Absolutely. I'm just going to unmute Robert. See if I can find him. Robert, I'm asking you to unmute. And I'm just going to pin you. Hold on, adding pin. That's it. Fantastic.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rahima. First of all, congratulations on the most interesting and informative address. You are a most effective communicator of the persecution that your people are suffering. And we can identify with you for very, very obvious reasons. I know, speaking on behalf of the Jewish members of the audience today, every year we hold a Holocaust memorial service. And at the end of that service, together with lots of other services all over the country, we say, never again. But it's happening again. It's happening now. It's happening to your people and others around the world. And we, certainly as Jews at the very, very least, we have a direct responsibility to make sure that this does not happen again to your people, and it's put to an end. There are so many similarities between your situation and the situation of the Jews in the 1940s. Just one that you've mentioned tonight, the United Nations, they were so ineffective then, and they've continued to be ineffective, and they're ineffective now. So we're so grateful for giving us an insight into the problems that you're having. And I can assure you that those of us here will do our very best to spread the word and make certainly our MPs, which is, I think, the most practical way we can do this, aware of how serious the problem is. Thank you, Rahima.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert. It's really a pleasure to hear this kind of very positive and supportive words. And, you know, hope is what we need most at the moment. I keep trying to tell people hope, even though it's so difficult. And, you know, people like you actually enlightens me. Every talk I see people and give me this kind of encouragement. It means world to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rahima, just very quickly, the two websites that you mentioned, it was Rania Kassin. What was the other one? Stop the Genocide?
Stop Uyghur Genocide.
Okay, Stop Uyghur Genocide. So it'll be easily found on Google.
Yes, Stop Uyghur Genocide. And also we have a Stop Uyghur Genocide GoFundMe page as well. If people would like to donate, yeah, I can send link as well.
Understood. Okay, GoFundMe page. Okay, so there's three links. I'll post those on the YouTube later on this evening. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to end the YouTube stream. So we have officially ended broadcasting.